This podcast is a quest for well-being, a quest for a meaningful life through the exploration of fundamental truth. Enlightening ideas, insights on physical, mental, and spiritual health. The inspiration is love. The aspiration is to awaken new ways of thinking that can lead us to a new way of being well. Welcome to Body, Mind, and Soul Healing Conversations.
A grateful mind is a great mind, which eventually attracts to itself great things. Plato. Valeria Teles interviews Chris Cirak, the author of Be You, The Journey of Self-Realization. Chris has a passion for turning sophisticated topics into accessible, meaningful, and inspiring experiences. With an extensive background in design, psychology, and tech, he has spearheaded empathy-based design in education and business environments alike. In private, Chris enjoys meditating, playing tennis, and writing music. He resides in Los Angeles, California. Meet Chris at Cirak.com. Here's the interview with Chris Cirak.
In your own words, who is Chris Cirak today?
Hi, Valeria. Thank you for asking. I love the word today, because we are constantly growing and evolving and expanding, and sometimes we shrink, but then only to spring forth in a bigger and better way. So, today I'm Chris Cirak, author of Be You, The Journey of Self-Realization. Working on a number of other books, all in the area of authentic living. So I'm really excited to be on this podcast for the third time because it creates a space that is really unique and expansive. And so I can't wait to get going.
Thank you for saying that. I appreciate the encouragement. And we talked earlier about calling. I have to bring that up. It's in my mind about calling and how it is actually not comfortable to answer that call, what we're supposed to be doing here with this life. And this podcast is a calling for me. In the beginning, I think I was sweating the entire time up to the probably 200th interview. It was not easy. The body resisted. It was such an interesting movement to watch. So with that in mind, let me ask you an open question about purpose. Do you see calling, having a dream, and having a purpose, are they all the same?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. So, we're talking about definitions and words here. So, words have different meanings to different people. In fact, language is a very kind of imprecise way to communicate and in many ways unnatural, right? Energy is something that you can't fake energy. You can't, energy doesn't lie. But we're not conditioned to really work with energy a whole lot, even though we are all sentient beings. But some have a more natural ability to pick up on energy. But there are obvious examples. Somebody walks into the room and they're like super sad or depressed. Like everyone notices right away the energy drops and dips. Or somebody who's really excited and high energy walks into the room, that everyone can pick that up as well, right? So those are kind of the extreme examples. But there's a whole range of emotions and feelings and energy in between. So dreams and purpose and all this is kind of part of a larger toolbox of vocabulary that can mean certain things. I think dreams, for example, are very often just ideas that we've been conditioned to believe in, and ultimately outcomes that we're conditioned to live for. and media and society and parents. It can be well-meaning. It's not detrimental. But what winds up happening is we create a vision, a snapshot of the future, some future state in which we'll have all of these things, or this type of lifestyle, or this situation, or this much money, or whatever it may be, relationships and so forth. And then that constitutes happiness, that snapshot. And snapshots are never, they're static, and life is never static, right? Life is moving. And so this static state where all these pieces are in place, this will never happen, because even if you get to that particular moment, it will continue to evolve from there and change and morph. So life is always moving and changing. And so these dreams, if you interpret kind of like wanting to be someone or become something or have a job and or house, all these things, it's kind of a limiting belief in a way. But purpose, and then purpose goes a little more to the heart of you think about why you're here and what your calling is and what you're good at and so forth. And of course, there's the focus on the outer purpose that we're more or less conditioned to believe in, a career or having a family or whatever it might be. And but the real purpose starts from within, and then understanding yourself, who you are, and your true inner blueprint, and then an expression of this self-knowledge it'll be whatever it'll be on the outside, but you have to start with the inside. You can't pursue these things on the outside and then hope to achieve peace and calm and happiness and tranquility by achieving those things. The purpose has to start within. And this kind of goes to what we were saying right before we started, is that often the purpose is not going to be what you kind of envisioned.
Yeah, right.
Right? What we envision is happy, easy, abundance, and all. It's going to be a smooth ride, smooth sailing, and that's just not life by nature. But that's not a bad thing. The nature of life is diverse and it's infinite, and the possibilities, it could be anything. So to think that we can pull out a few slivers here and there of ideas and say, oh, this is what my life is going to be like, and then I'll get to that place and then I'll be happy, it's very limiting and not realistic. Yeah.
Everything you say resonates so true to me in my heart. When I think about being free in the sense that you speak of, to me comes as being open to life, to every moment. Even the thought patterns that sometimes I observe within the mind, they seem to have been always there, but maybe before I was not conscious or aware of them, and now I am. And they have not changed. But the interesting thing is that even though the thought patterns, they are not changing in a sense of small habits, like getting, let's say, frustrated when it comes to violence, in this case, the war between Ukraine and Russia. So it's really, I feel like all these energies and these thoughts that resist violence, that they don't understand what's happening, and there's almost a conflict. But I see that the life, the way I carry, day to day, moment to moment, it's completely different. My life, the way I live, it doesn't reflect those patterns, those thought patterns. So I guess I wonder if they ever go away.
Yeah. So that's a really powerful share right there in that the main difference to Valeria before and today is the degree to which you believe your thoughts.
Yeah.
Right? So the thoughts just pop up. They just happen. Because it's kind of their life. We have sensory senses. We're connected. We're plugged in. The more plugged in we are into life, into nature, and our environment, and people, and energies, and things happening, and the more we're going to experience, and just all of these experiences will flow through us. And part of that is thoughts arising around those experiences, and thoughts and feelings, and so the whole key to the key word freedom, right? The point where you're truly free is not to get rid of these thoughts or cling to the ones you like and get rid of the ones you don't like,
Right.
or to push away feelings that you dislike, right? Yeah. It's to actually let them all arise and pass, flow through you. Just this, it's almost like it's overload. If we are truly connected and experiencing everything without resistance, without clinging to the good stuff either, and just let it pass through and just be part of that amazing flow. It's almost too much then, because then you kind of flip out. It's like, so you know? So I think a part of just being human and kind of hanging on to some things is that the miracle of being alive would just be too intense if we experienced every present moment, being purely present. So anyway.
I love the way you explain these things, because they're not easy things to understand with the intellect, but which the message that you communicate is being heard as just being life itself, which is something that for some reason it keeps kind of hovering over me as if there's a truth, that will be the truth, that I am life. I don't have one. So it makes sense. So just being alive, being here, it's everything. It cannot be just one thing. So that makes sense. And I love what you said about not believing the mind. So that's exactly what I do. I don't believe what the mind says most of the time.
Yeah, exactly. And something really powerful, again, is the living through the mind. The mind is a tool, and the way it works is it defines things. It tries to know things and understand things and label things. And there's nothing bad about that. It's just how it works.
Right.
But if we live exclusively through that mind, what labeling things does is create distance to them. When you say this over there is a tree, you're saying you're now creating separateness, a sense of separateness. It's a tiny little sense of separateness. I'm over here and the tree is over there, right? And even the label of I'm not the tree, it's like you're separate from it, right? But we do this all day long if we're just living through the head, separateness here, separateness there. And before you know it, we're just feeling separate from life. Even though, like you just said, we are life. We're such an expression and such one of the most amazing expressions of life. I mean, not to diminish trees or the creatures or the mountain or the clouds and the sky. I mean, all of that is insane.
Yeah,
but,
I know.
But we are really insane. So
that's funny the way you say that, because insane in the sense of unbelievable. When I was, I think, 7 years old, I remember, perhaps even younger, I remember looking at myself in the mirror and saying, oh, you're here again. You came back in a new body. So without knowing anything about it, was never taught anything about reincarnation or anything about philosophy on the human experience, none of that. So I knew nothing intellectually. But I asked that question, or I said that to myself, you're here. Oh, you're here again in a new body. That in a way stayed with me forever. Back to this moment, it's very clear. It's very powerful, that kind of knowledge that we are here again. So with that, I ended up asking so many more questions and deeper questions and going deeper into my quest of getting to know what that meant. And in the end, the end meaning now, here now, is I still wonder, because I read so much and I expose myself at the mind to a lot of these, let's say, deep spiritual teachings. And one of the latest ones, which is not a new one, it's very ancient, is about karma. So the body itself is the manifestation of deep ignorance. And because we knew so little about ourselves in so many previous lifetimes, we just keep coming back here. So, I would love to hear from you. Does it make sense to you that karma has to do with being in the human body? I know we find it to be incredibly fascinating, and some of us, incredibly beautiful, and why not? This experience is amazing. How did this come to be? How did this happen? And does it make sense to you that this is actually coming from ignorance, to be here in the human body and to go through all the suffering, unnecessary suffering that we go through?
Yeah, I mean, so the insights I've had around this topic, and it's one of the deepest ones, right? It's pure existentialism, why everything is the way it is, and how can we, venturing out to the outer edge of thought to be
Okay.
able to even think about it. What I've found for myself is that there is there's certainly some truth, if you want to use that word, to the body being a container for lower frequencies, unconscious frequencies. In fact, if we were all super high vibrating, we'd be vapor. We couldn't be
Yes.
we couldn't be in a body, right? It's just so to be in a body requires us to kind of be in the lower realms of the energy spectrum. And then when we leave our body, the physical shell goes away, and then we're back into freeform spirit, right? And that's when we can vibrate any which way we want. But while we're here, there's kind of it's this process of embodying lower, unconscious energy, and in the course of life, generating conscious energy out of that, transmuting all of these unconscious traits such as self-loathing. We transmute that as part of the journey of self-realization into self-love. We transmute these kind of lower frequencies, and we can tell it doesn't feel good to be depressed, right? It doesn't feel good to think low of yourself. It doesn't feel good to be in fear. It doesn't feel good to be anxious. All of these lower frequencies, as we heal, as we come out of them, and there's many ways to heal, and then we release those lower frequencies and allow higher frequencies to take hold. And so it's a big discussion because everything exists in a dualistic system. Everything has its purpose. Everything is valid. So it's not like we're getting rid of lower frequencies. The true enlightenment, I think, is to be a container for all of it. You're not pushing away the lower frequencies either. You're just experiencing them as they come up. Of course, the more you focus and nurture a higher kind of beingness in yourself, then the less they impact you. They just zip right through you, and you can feel them, but they're still there.
I also have heard, because I study Advaita Vedanta, you probably have heard about those
Yeah.
teachings. It's really interesting to say this is a dream, but it never happened. It's not happening, but we're
Yeah.
imagining everything, which also makes a lot of sense to me. I don't know how it makes sense to the mind,
Yeah.
but it does.
Yeah, it can definitely be a system within a system within a system. It's kind of a rabbit hole there. But I mean, it's staying within this container. We definitely impact, our energy impacts the people around us, the things around us, the animals around us, plants and trees. Everything is impacted by our energy. And so even if we leave our body, we leave behind kind of an imprint of the state of awareness that we were in, and that gets to live on in others. So we're all connected. We're even if we come back in this, in another body, and we're kind of like a lot of our old self is still there, and the lessons we need to learn and so forth. It all continues, but we're in the meantime, along the way, we're continuously connected and affecting each other. And so, it's so important, going back to your question about purpose, it's so important to not have to find this like a job or a function, a role that is this purpose. But if you've gone through a lot in your life and you've experienced a lot of, suffering, and that's made you into a shining light, and that is deeper and broad and deep, in many aspects of life. It could be, if you've suffered in relationships or lost loved ones, or in finance, and in all of this life building exercise that we're in. It actually, you would have a better and bigger impact on the world and on raising the collective frequency by by shining that light as a parent, or shining that light at the workplace, or shining that light with your friends and family, or traveling, or whatever it may be, being a little league coach, whatever it is, it doesn't have to be this one big on a pedestal kind of position and a title that you have. I think those have their place, but the more experienced and like life wise you are, the more you bring that light to everything that you, be it picking up the pizza at the place down the street, you're shining your light on everyone you encounter.
I love that. Yeah. What a beautiful message for all of us to live by. Yes. So let's talk about the incredible power of gratitude. The first question is, how do you define gratitude, Chris?
Wow. Okay. So gratitude is incredibly, just incredibly powerful. It's such a wonderful thing. It's one of the few things that focusing on the external brings you closer to the internal and then just the collective unity of life. Normally, we get infatuated with the external, but then there's the experience really is to let go of it, and because we're seeking ourselves, our happiness, our joy, and we're seeking love in these external people, places, and things, and then we realize, well, no, they're not here to provide this for us. There could be temporary joy in those experiences, but it's not permanent. And so the core lesson of life in getting infatuated with the external is that you then learn to release it so that you can discover the love and the passion for creation that went into those things, not the things themselves. And that same passion of creation is within yourself, that you're part of that. So that's how typically the journey of life. But now with gratitude, this is amazing thing where you start with one thing. I'm grateful for, having a roof over my head, or I'm grateful for the job that's providing, a paycheck to put food on the table for family and so forth. And I'm grateful for my health. And these are very broad things. And it's, of course, easy to be grateful for those, and it's important. But then if you stay in that mind, I hate to say mindset, but
I know.
If you keep going with that gratitude attitude, right? Attitude of gratitude, then it starts to narrow your focus. Well, okay, I'm happy. I'm grateful for that roof over my head. I'm also grateful for having this computer and being able to do these things and record or do work. And I'm grateful for, even the television screen, for be able to enjoy the documentary that, and it starts to get narrower and narrower when you keep practicing gratitude. You get so into the minutia, and you realize, oh my gosh, I can be grateful for everything. And what it does is it takes us into the present moment, into the absolute micro detail of the present moment of everything is something to be grateful for, and including ourselves. And so it's just so powerful. The energy that starts to build from practicing gratitude, and the momentum and the lens shift on all of life. It's so powerful, and I'm only recently really realizing that my gosh, it's the simplest thing to do, and anyone can understand it. It can be practiced, and you don't need. It doesn't have any dogma attached to it, and it's so easy and so fast that you start to get into an upward positive spiral.
I usually write when I write to emails to anyone, I always include from the very beginning, thank you for something, and then gratitude in the end. But it has changed. So I noticed a movement where now at the end, instead of saying much love and deep gratitude, I say much love and deep appreciation. So do you see a difference between gratitude and appreciation? For some reason, it changed for me, the way I write and talk.
Well, this is where I would flip the table and on you and ask you, how does it feel differently? And what are you experiencing? Where in your body do you experience that shift, that change from gratitude to appreciation?
Yeah, let me see if I can put into words. Gratitude feels, it's almost like on a larger scale, it's almost like looking the big picture of things. And then appreciation, it feels like there's more presence. It requires me to be present, to be here now in order to appreciate anything. So
Yeah.
I think that's what it comes to me now.
Yeah, and that's really beautiful, and that's ultimately the journey of self-discovery. There's and that's your truth, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
In my role or anybody else's role for each other. We're here to hold space for everyone to become more authentic, more in touch with what's real for them, what matters for them, and we said these are just definitions, but there are feelings there. There's insight attached to these words and what's really behind it. And I can totally, I could maybe add, just from what I'm picking up from your description, that there's also it's a little more humble,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
recognizing yourself as the drop in the ocean, and so it's also it appreciates the bigger picture, but it also yeah, it's
Oh my
beautiful. So
God. Yeah. I love what you said because it feels right. The body responded. Yeah, yeah, that's true. The piece of being humble, right? Through everything I do, the way I do it, the things in front of me, like listening to your voice now. I write deep because it is deep to the core. It's almost like has to do with the heart too, because I feel the energies in the chest, like they're moving.
oh,
So
yes. So that's exactly what you took the words right out of my mouth. So this is what I call a heart virtue. And it's something that if when you're a public speaker, you train and practice and you find what in your experience in your life, what vision or what's a trigger for you to come out of your head and into your heart space. Because if you're up on stage and you're talking to audiences, they notice right away if you're like playing a script in your head and self-conscious versus really open, coming from the heart space. And for me, it is that vision of being a drop in the ocean that puts me into the heart space, because I feel so humble to be alive.
yeah, right. That's it, Chris. I love the way you speak about these things because there's a lot of clarity. And sometimes it's not easy to put into words, and you're doing that. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Mhm.
Another question. Let's see. I have way too many. Yeah, talk to me for a moment. This could be fun about the most powerful experiences you have had when it comes to gratitude and appreciation. Yeah, I would love to hear a bit more about that.
Well, my one of the most powerful experiences I've had was very recently, only a couple of weeks ago, and I was at a meditation retreat, and it was an intention burning gratitude circle kind of ceremony, and it just got me into a place of following where my heart was taking me, and I just became aware of the incredible love that I have received and that I feel for my mother, and really just the emotions just poured out of me from there, and there's a recognition there. What we do, and we're usually too young to recognize when these things happen, is we create walls. We even myself growing up, I wanted to be my own person, and then just like every preteen or teenager is like, I want my own life, my own identity, and we put up these emotional blocks, these emotional walls to the love that maybe a caregiver, a parent, or an uncle, or a teacher, or others that they're sending our way, and we're not aware that we're doing it, and then we carry that wall forward into our adult relationships and so forth, and only when it kind of comes crashing down do we realize, oh my gosh, I've been not appreciating, I haven't been in touch with it as deeply as I could. And so this was a massive moment of gratitude for me, just feeling the unwavering love that my mom had always extended my way. So deeply grateful for that.
That's beautiful and can be felt even in the way that you speak about it. Yeah, there's an energetic resonance. I love that. Another question I have was a comment that I wanted to make. No. Yeah, so gratitude is a practice, right, Chris? It's not a state of mind or a state of being.
Yeah, that's correct, and it's the easiest practice in the. It's almost like it's play. Really, it's you could be sitting on the couch or in front of your breakfast bowl, and start doing it. Right,
Yeah.
I'm just so grateful for having a spoon to lift this amazing food that got here through however many channels and my oat milk to go along with it and tastes so yummy and my body and I'm feeling it, and so I mean just endless. You can see, it's just, and it's imaginative too. It really unlocks you at so many different levels. And so I would, of all the practices, because on the other end, I'm also, hardcore meditator where I've sat for, 10 days in silence many, many times. And that I get that part as well. And there's deep benefits that come from that. But the simplicity and kind of the everyday, every situation, you can carry this attitude of gratitude with you and let it color the way you experience life. And it will bring you in, it will bring you closer. People are open up. They're less defensive. It's an inclusive attitude, and it's just 100% all around beneficial.
It changed everything. It has been my experience. And especially when that movement happened from gratitude, big picture, to the simple things, appreciating the smallest things, just that are here now in front of me.
Yeah.
And now it's just, it has been fun. Although sometimes it's, I'm not saying that's easy, because sometimes we are hijacked by the mind too, and then presence not there, and then I'm listening to the mind and seeing what's happening there. And I don't spend a lot of time with the mind, giving attention to it when it's not appreciative of whatever is happening, but it still happens. I don't believe there is destination when it comes to the practice of anything. It seems to me like it's a constant effort to enjoy this life, isn't it, Chris? It takes practice and effort. It's not easy.
Yeah. Well,
Huh.
that's a really wonderful statement. I'm thinking initially it does take effort, but when, and let's use the word appreciation instead of gratitude, and because it's kind of a refined, there's less pressure when you use appreciate, and you don't have to come up with this big gratitude thing, right?
Yes,
So
right.
it's easier to appreciate more things, smaller things, in everything, really. And I think what happens, though, it opens the heart space, and there comes a point where the heart doesn't close up again. It just stays open, right? And you've integrated that appreciation for life and that proximity and closeness and that in tuneness. And it's really, I mean, maybe traumatic things that all have their own lesson again, to deepen you even more. But for the most part, you stay open and aware once you get to that place, and it just gets easier to live, the art of living, to just let all experiences flow through you. And I wake up these days, and there are mornings when I just feel crappy, and there's weird feelings and just unhappy feelings. I don't even know what they are or where they come from. You don't really have to know. Is all you have to do is be aware of them. Be aware that, oh, this is what I'm feeling it, and this is where I'm feeling it, and give it space to be, give it the attention, and it'll pass. It just passes, and before you know it, you're up and vibrating at a higher frequency again, taking care of business. And so you just let these depressive kind of feelings move through you, and then you carry on. And so the easier you let life flow through you, the more you're living.
You talked earlier about separation. It's so true. When I think about the mind, automatically separates whatever it is that it wants to judge or criticize or label. It has to separate. in order to
Yes.
do that. So that's when I know that's where the thoughts are coming from, and I'm giving attention to them. It's coming from separation from the mind because I can hear the thoughts. When it's the heart space, when it's coming from that, then there's no space anymore, no distance.
Mm-hmm.
That's incredible. Everything's happening here now, and it's integrated. It's just a whole. There's no parts anymore. That's just incredible. I love that. This piece of experience. It doesn't seem like an experience anymore, but it's almost like it's a flow of what is, of this that we call life. So it's flowing, but there's no really a beginning, a middle, and end, and it's complete in itself.
Yeah.
It's incredible, incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing for the listeners, it's because there might be this impression, oh, now I'm just going to experience everything, ups and downs of life, and I just have to be okay with it. No, it's not that. It's actually the ups and downs happen because we cling to certain things and we resist to other feelings. So it's the clinging and resisting, the reacting to our feelings that is causing the roller coaster up and down. But the absence of reacting and actually just feeling the feelings, it's a much smoother ride. You kind of rise up over and as like an observer to all of it, to all your feelings, and you're in such a powerful and trusting and calm place where these feelings you're still experiencing, and some are comfortable, some are uncomfortable, but they become very small. They're very manageable, very like, oh, there's a super happy feeling. I'm going to feel it while it's happening, but
Yeah.
I'll let it pass as well. And then here comes a depressed feeling, and that same thing. It's like, there it is, and there it goes.
It is the clinging that in a lot of the spiritual teachings, it's called attachment. That is true. We do. And that's okay to do that too, right, Chris? I try to be open to everything the way it happens. If sometimes I cling to something, it's okay too. I kind of forgive myself really quick and let go.
Absolutely, just experience everything. If you're going to cry, cry. If you're going to be exuberant, and just be it, live it, love it. You're alive. It's just a miracle that Don't get too caught up on things having to be a certain way. Just experience it all and enjoy it while you're here.
Yes, what a beautiful message. A lot of activists will not appreciate the message of not taking it seriously and fighting for something.
Right.
So another question I have for you, I have read something interesting about being ungrateful and how to recognize that in ourselves and others. Some say is the being ungrateful, it's being selfish. And that comes from certain personality types or perhaps behaviors. Not sure that's almost like a psychological kind of assessment, but they talk about people who tend to be envy, materialistic, or narcissistic, cynics, people who are vain. I wonder if this is something that we can really talk about when it comes to gratitude. Is that, do you see the opposite attributes or like traits that would make us less grateful? And this sometimes could be genetics too, so some people can change.
Well, I mean, off the bat, I do think everyone can change. It's just
Right.
it takes more work or it takes longer or something, but our innate being is one of the love for creation. There's passion and joy and happiness that is inside of all of us. That is the core. Now, there are layers and layers and layers from different experiences and different lifetimes, if we want to go there, and so forth, that block us from experiencing that unity. But so yeah, I can see how being ungrateful and selfishness and narcissism, all these things are kind of all related. I think ultimately it comes from a place of deep woundedness. You're not at peace with yourself. These are all kind of protection mechanisms or avoidance behavior, or and they're just so deeply rooted that they seem like they're part of your personality. For those individuals will have to just dig even deeper to come out of those places. And there is a way for everyone. It's also part of duality. For everything that exists, for every wound, there's a healing, state. For everything that has become jumbled up, there is the unjumbled state, right? So it's just finding it, and that's really, it takes us to the question of why are some more driven than others to really embrace this journey of self-realization and go deeper and really commit your life to that. And I think naturally everyone gets to a point where this kind of surface existence of just living for outcomes, it lets you down. That's just, it's part of the design. We're supposed to pursue these things and fall in love with goals and outcomes, thinking they will make us permanently happy, only to learn that they don't. And then what, right? And then there's a little question mark starts to pop up. Well, if it's not this, then maybe it's this other thing. Then we pursue that. And then again, no, not this. So slowly but surely, life pushes us in the direction of looking within after we've looked everywhere else.
Yeah. I have some quotes here too, some gratitude quotes. But before that, talk to me for a moment about mindfulness and meditation, Chris. Gratitude, mindfulness, and meditation.
Wow. Okay. So this is one of my favorite things to talk about. Being aware of oneself is primarily, it's being aware of your sensations. It's being aware of the experiences as we walk through the world. Our senses interact with our environment, and they send signals to our brain, which then interprets those. Those signals show up as feelings, sensations somewhere in our body. Now, we're so conditioned to react to those feelings and push the ones we don't like away and then cling to the ones we like. And that's what gets them stuck. So we're kind of full of these layers of stuck feelings, positive and negative, doesn't matter. We're just full of layers of stuck feelings. And so the journey of becoming more aware and becoming mindful, living mindfully, is to start to undo those and release those stuck feelings and how do we release them? Well, by becoming aware of them, by giving them space to be and no longer just blindly reacting to them. So the core, I think, across all forms of meditation is to become more aware of your sensations, your experiences, and your feelings, and to just allow them to be. And so the more you sit and meditate, my personal practice is in Vipassana, which is, just body scanning your bodies. Others might, have tried Yoga Nidra, which is a simpler form of that. But where you're just scanning your body and observing your, different body parts and how they respond to the air around you, to the clothes on your skin and so forth. You just become more and more aware of your feelings, and they're constantly happening left and right, all day long. Our bodies are biochemical, electrical current, units that are always active. And this life current that flows through us, we need to become more aware of it in order to then experience experiences when they happen. So, highly recommended meditation, all forms. Look for what works for you. Start with something basic, but breath work and inner child. And there's so many, EMDR, tapping. I mean, just endless. So many wonderful practices that you can try out and see if it works for you.
I love the body awareness piece that you speak of. That meditation sounds like it's very mental. That we stay there, we sit down, and we stay in our headspace. But it's quite the opposite. It's observing everything and bringing it down to the body.
Yeah. Well, you're right, though. It is a challenge. It's a mental challenge because the mind is so used to dominating proceedings. Like thoughts appear, and we believe the thought and follow it down a rabbit hole, and that thought leads to the next thought,
Yeah.
and so we spend. Some
Yeah.
people estimate we spend 93% of our day lost in thought. And that's just the mind being a dictator, and how to wrestle control away from that mind. So when you're sitting and meditating, you're really observing a thought come along, and then it hijacks you, and because you're focused on your breath, but a thought will come along and hijack you, and then you're lost for 10, 20 minutes, however long. And then you kind of wake up and go, oh my gosh, I was lost in thought. And then you bring your attention back to your body, back to your breath. And so you could be sitting in meditation for an hour, and 59 minutes of it, you're lost in thought.
Yeah.
But those extra seconds that you catch yourself sooner drifting off, and you bringing the attention back to your body and your sensations. That's what creates the space, the awareness, the freedom, the trust, the self-knowledge into something. There's something bigger to life than just believing our thoughts, and you just expand that little minute till it grows into 2 and 3 and 4 and longer. And there are days you still wake up, for myself, and where like I just can't. The mind is so unruly. It's so wild. And then to be okay with that is really the next level. The ultimate level is, okay, mind is really, this is what it's doing today, and I'm just gonna allow it to do that.
Thank you so much, Chris, for your presence here again.
Thank you.
Love talking to you. Everything about you just spells wisdom, clarity, healing. So those words, they come to me. So thank you so much for being you.
Thank you.
And before we end the conversation today, I want to go through some of the quotes that I found about gratitude that they caught my attention. And I would love to know which one resonates with you too. The first one is by a Jesuit priest. He said, "It's not joy that makes us grateful. It is gratitude that makes us joyful." And then Plato said, "A grateful mind is a great mind which eventually attracts to itself great things." And then in the Bhagavad Gita, it says, "Whatever is coming to you, you should have some level of contentment. And with contentment comes gratitude. If you are discontent, how can you be grateful?" Question ends with a question. And then the last one is from Marcel Proust. Says, "Let us be grateful for people who make us happy. They are the charming gardeners who make our souls blossom." I love these quotes.
Oh, they are so beautiful. It would be hard to pick a favorite because they all address different angles and different perspectives, and they have different effects. The first one stood out for me. I was raised Catholic, and I have, I like the simplicity of that, and just kind of, I went to Loyola Marymount Jesuit College, and so that rings familiar. Plato, my dad was a huge fan, and he would read all the big philosophers and history buff and so forth, and so that one rings true as well. And the Bhagavad Gita is obviously super deep, and then the last one is about how we impact others with the way we carry ourselves, which is something we talked about earlier, is how we shine our light in everything we do, even the smallest things.
Yes.
So those are all beautiful. I can't pick a favorite.
Good. I bet someone's practicing what you preach too, right? Letting everything move and dance as they do.
Yes.
Thank you so much again, Chris. And before I ask you my final question, would you like to add anything else that we left unsaid?
Oh my gosh. So, I want to thank you for creating the space and allowing, the conversation to unfold as it does. And there's just magic in that, and everything that you do outside of the podcast, right? You do so much more. I want the listeners to know that, and they should look it up. And it's just such a beautiful calling that you've stepped into that role. And we talked about earlier how a true calling is something that's never easy. It forces us to grow, right? So the way you've grown, and even in the time that I've seen you and we've known each other, it's just a beautiful sight to behold.
Thank you so much, Chris. Yeah, I really appreciate that. And the body appreciates especially. I often say that because it is true. It's the only part that sometimes it tends to complain, certain parts of the body. It has been an interesting experience to be around people like you and see how much I, quote unquote, have evolved. The energies have changed. So it has been an amazing experience. Thank you for being part of it. And my last question, before the technical one, is what is one message from our conversation today you wish listeners to take with them?
I think what stands out is because we often get overwhelmed depending on where we are, and even when we're evolved in one area in life, there's life has a way of finding our blind spots.
Oh yeah.
and the thing is to not get frustrated by that, and just to experience it and live it and love it, and try to carry this miracle of life, the gratitude and this attitude and the appreciation and all that with us wherever we go, because it's like a shield. It protects us, and it doesn't just protect us. It makes us feel ourselves as the infinite power that we are, the limitlessness from which we arise from, and that we return to. It's like it brings us closer to that, and even if it's just a little step, little tiny taste, it's worth it, and it makes all the difference. And so. Always keeping that in mind, no matter, especially when we're feeling down or down on our luck and things don't happen the way we imagine them to happen. There are energies at work that are so beyond our comprehension of what we think should have happened, and these things, that just trusting a little bit and appreciating everything for just happening. And that gets us more into alignment with the true power that we are.
Thank you so much again, Chris.
Thank you.
And before we say goodbye today, where can we find more information about you, your books, products, coaching services, and future projects?
Yes, so you can find me online on my website, Cirak.com. I'm on all the social media platforms at Chris Cirak, and look for my books on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and Apple and Google Play and all the platforms that's out there.
Wonderful. I'll have the link on your podcast profile too. Thank you again, and we'll talk soon. Bye for now, Chris.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. To learn more about Chris Cirak and his work, please visit Cirak.com.
To learn more about this podcast, please visit fitforjoy.org/podcast. Thank you again for listening, and bye for now.